to the third technical session. We have CA Tushar Agarwal ji from Tatvam Advisors with us on a very important topic. Personally, my favorite important topic, because when we look at future, there are many excitement, judgments and changes which are about to happen. Some of them are uncertain and some of them might impact the practice and the overall GST law. Tusharji is a founder partner at Tatvam Advisors and heads the litigation practice. He has more than 12 years of experience in indirect taxation and has worked for 8 years with Lakshmi Kumar and Sridhar attorneys. He was also deployed by GSTN for GST implementation, has worked closely with the government officials. He has worked extensively with the Government of India in designing of GST returns, audit and other formats. Tatvam Advisors are also the knowledge partner of Reptile Electrosoft Private Limited and are the leading firm when it comes to indirect taxation. With that, and without taking much of time and giving more time to Tushar sir, I would like to hand the mic to you. Welcome to our forum, Tushar sir, and I can't see you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Thank you so much, Shubhamji. At the outset, I would like to thank AFTP, CGPI, and Webtel for providing me this opportunity. Friends, today we are celebrating 4th anniversary of the historic tax reform of India and starting with the 5th year of the GST journey. The last 4 years, we have come across so many changes, amendments, challenges, learning, and experiences, and the GST law is still growing and maturing. If you recall, pre-GST, we were facing various issues, namely multiplicity of taxes. Second, different prices to the end customer. A customer who was purchasing in Maharashtra or a customer who was purchasing goods in Delhi was getting different prices because of the VAT rate differences. So the pricing was different. Another issue, non-fungibility of center and state taxes, etc., leading to cascading effect. When GST was implemented, all these issues have been taken care of, was implemented with the intent to take care of all these issues, and to my mind, largely it has taken care of these issues. You will find a uniform rate across all the states. When we talk about seamless flow of credit, no doubt it has led to a seamless flow of credit, but there are practical challenges. Challenges in terms of block credit, challenges in terms of 2A, 3B reconciliations, challenges in terms of regular amendments and changes leading to difficulty in understanding the GST law, challenges in terms of confusing advance rulings, challenging in terms of investigations, etc. So what we will discuss today is 15 major issues wherein we are expecting certain relief from either the judiciary or the government. These are the issues which have been brought to the notice of the government. These are the issues wherein the matter has been pending before the judiciary. Let's have a look at some of these issues to see whether we can get the relief in the 5th year of GST or not. The first issue, parallel proceedings under the GST law. Clear-cut section 6(2)(b) of the GST law says, if a proceeding is being undertaken by a state officer on a subject matter, center officer cannot undertake the proceedings on the very same subject matter. Section 16(2)(b) is clear. Then what is the problem? The problem is at the ground level, this is not being implemented. What is happening is that we are getting different notices on the very same subject matter from the state as well as the center. And even the judiciary is divided. Taking example of the latest judgment of JK Trading, what the court has held, court is saying that proceeding is different from inquiry. So what cannot be done? What is, for example, if a state authority is undertaking assessment, adjudication, then center cannot undertake, but both of them can do an inquiry. Both of them can issue you a summon. Then what is the purpose of this section? The entire purpose of section 16(2)(b) is that if I am subject to investigation by one authority, state authority, center should not investigate on the same subject matter, but judiciary is interpreting these sections in a manner leading to confusion at the ground level. Then the power of DGGI to issue summons, to issue show cause notice, a Pandora box which has been opened by the Supreme Court judgment in the case of Canon India in respect of powers to DRI to issue show cause notice under the Customs Act. What the Supreme Court held? Supreme Court said, in customs, it is your custom jurisdictional officer who is doing your self-assessment and the assessment. Then how can the reassessment or the show cause notices be issued by a preventive wing or a DRI wing? This is called as principle of comity laid down by Supreme Court of India. Applying the same to GST law. In GST also, you are subject to self-assessment under section 59 before your jurisdictional officer. Even scrutiny of returns can be undertaken by your jurisdictional officer under section 61. If your assessment is being undertaken by your jurisdictional officer, then how can a reassessment and applying the principle of comity, how can notices be issued by other wing, other department wing, like DGGI, etc.? No clarity till now. So we hope in 5th year, we will get some kind of clarity, some kind of discipline in terms of parallel proceedings under the GST law by both the authorities for the issue of power of DGGI to issue summons or issue show cause notice. Second very important case, issue, anti-profiteering. Implementation of anti-profiteering provisions even after 4 years of GST implementation is a challenge. Today also, what National Anti-Profiteering is saying, if they are asking real estate developer to pass on the benefit to a customer who is making booking even now. So as a customer, if I go and purchase a flat in a real estate project, they are asking developers to pass on the anti-profiteering benefit to me. How can anti-profiteering benefit be applicable to a post-GST customer who is doing booking in 2020? Today, if I'm fixing the price with the builder is considering all the taxes which is prevalent as of now. The entire concept of input anti-profiteering was in respect of transitional issues, wherein I had done the booking earlier based on old credit regime. They had given me a price and thereafter the benefit has to flow to me. Today, if I'm making a booking, if real estate player is selling a flat today, how can anti-profiteering provision be applicable? But all NAPA orders, yes, you have to comply with, they specifically say so. We are aware a series of matter is pending before Delhi High Court, and we look forward that in 5th year of GST, we get clarity on what is the method of anti-profiteering, on whom it should be applicable, what should be the process of passing of anti-profiteering benefit. We hope we get at least some clarity in the 5th year of GST. Another important issue which everybody is facing is input tax credit eligibility on CSR activities. CSR under section 135 of the Companies Act, it is obligatory on the company to undertake CSR activities. It is mandatory if as an obligation under the CSR provisions, as an obligation under the Companies Act provisions, if I'm distributing free oxygen cylinders to the hospitals, why my credit should be denied? The provision says credit can be denied only in case I'm distributing gift. But if I send oxygen cylinders as a part of CSR activity, is it a gift? Gift is something which is voluntary. Whereas in this case, it is an obligation cast on me. It's an obligation which is cast on me that I have to undertake the CSR activities under the Companies Act. So why should credit be denied? But there is a lot of confusion, and we hope government come out with a circular clarifying the input tax credit provisions on CSR activities. In fact, before this session, we were discussing with Joint Secretary, GST Council. He himself said that we are looking for the possible options. This is in the stage of discussion, and we are aware this is one of the industry problems. So we look forward for some clarity in the 5th year of GST. Another important relief which the industry wants is payment on receipt basis for certain sectors. We all are aware in service tax for small service provider, there was a relief that the payment of tax can be made on receipt basis rather than accrual basis. But in GST, everything is on accrual basis. Everything is on accrual basis. for certain sectors who are actually suffering because of COVID, etc., a relief of payment of tax on receipt basis will add boom. Several representations have gone. We look forward to see what will happen in coming year. Another important point, industry specific, real estate specific, cancellation of units. If a builder is selling a unit in 2017 and he cancels in 2021, whatever GST he has paid in these 4 years, he cannot claim back. What practically happens? He can adjust the GST only to the extent of the credit notes, which he can issue within the time limit, or he can get back the GST refund within the period of 2 years from the date of payment. So whatever he has paid in 2017, 2018, all go for a loss. What he can claim is only the tax which he has paid in 2020-21. But ultimately, all this GST burden is always shifted to the end customer and is not on the builders. So end customer is suffering in these cases. If they book a unit in 2017, they get it cancelled in 2021, they have to pay GST from their own pocket, and that is the ground level reality. Several writs have been filed, representations have been submitted before the authorities, the policy wing, the council, stating that for such kind of units, for such kind of industry, please provide relief. This matter is being discussed at GST Law Committee, and we hope we get some relief soon. Next, an industry-specific issue, but a major issue, alcoholic industry. There is a product called ENA. It is like an alcohol which is not fit for human consumption. It is still required to be processed. In GST law, there is no clarity whether this product will be subject to VAT or it will be subject to GST, and all alcoholic industries are facing this issue. In fact, UP has come out with a notification stating that VAT is payable on ENA, whereas the legal attorney of India, he have come out with a legal opinion stating that GST is payable on ENA. And now this matter is actually pending before GST Council since 2017. Even in this latest meeting, they had to discuss this agenda, but never discussed. An issue which was brought forward in 2017, still pending after 4 years. We hope we will get clarity in 5th year. Another important point, retrospective amendments. So we are aware about the retrospective amendment in the definition of supply to curb the judgment of Calcutta Club. So there they made a retrospective amendment by amending the act. And now what they have done in 43rd amendment meeting, 43rd GST Council meeting, they have not amended the act, but by way of a circular, they are actually levying a retrospective levy. How? Road construction contractors who are working under hybrid model, they used to collect annuity payments from NHAI. If my road construction contract is say for 100 crore rupees, 60 crore rupees I used to get earlier and 40 crore rupees in forms of annuity. There was a GST policy, GST Council meeting wherein a decision was taken that this is an amount which is exempt. All industry players in India not paying tax on annuity payments, all road contractor in India not paying GST on annuity payments. But in this 43rd Council meeting, the circular which is issued, it is said that GST is payable on all such annuity payments. And now all these industries don't know what to do. So we expect that government will now listen to them. They are again approaching and will provide certain relief. Another important area is the constitution of the tribunals. The tribunals are not constituted. It is a matter pending before judiciary. And who is actually the sufferer? It's the taxpayer. So if an order is passed against the taxpayer, a commissioner appeal passes an order against the taxpayer, I have a right to go to the tribunal within 3 months. But today I cannot go. And the only option left to me is to approach High Court. So it is the real challenge of the taxpayers that tribunals have not been constituted and they are not able to file appeal. For exporters, an important issue, advance authorization versus GST refund. So what was happening was that an exporter who was exporting goods on payment of GST and claiming refund, a condition was imposed by 54 by 2018 notification stating that such exporters should not import the raw material under advance authorization and should not take the benefit. in October 2018, a circular was also issued that this amendment is prospective. So the government clarified that this condition which I am imposing, that if you are exporting goods on payment of tax, you should not import the raw material duty-free under authorized operation under advance authorization license. This is prospective. But what happened? Gujarat High Court, in the case of Cosmo, they said that this amendment is retrospective, and post that judgment, DRI is behind all such exporters. So government has clarified in the circular it is prospective, but judiciary has created a dispute that it is retrospective. We need clarity in fifth year. We need to avoid such kind of litigations. Another important area of litigation, cross charge versus ISD. Even after 4 years, there is no clarity on the concept of cross charge. If I'm providing a head office in Gurgaon is providing business support services to various plants located at various locations, there is no clarity how to determine the valuation, whether the salary cost will be included or it will not be included. Similarly, what all expenditure will be included as a part of cross charge and what all expenditure has to be routed through ISD. Is cross charge or ISD mutually exclusive? Government had come out with a draft circular wherein they had differentiated between the concept of cross charge and ISD. But once that draft circular was out, it was taken back. And still now, no clarity has been provided. So we expect that at least in the 5th year, they will end this issue of cross charge versus ISD and come out with a circular clarifying all the issues. Similarly, corporate guarantee valuation. If I'm giving a corporate guarantee without consideration to a related party, deemed supplier under Schedule 1, but how to value it? In service tax regime, people are getting notices. Department is saying 3% is the valuation, 2% is the valuation, no basis. An open issue. We look forward. Representation have gone to the authorities, to the policing wing. Another important area is in respect of input tax credit. How my input tax credit provisions are linked with the place of supply. There is no condition under section 16 that if a recipient has to take the credit, place of supply should fall in the recipient state. Yes, as a recipient, I am in Delhi. If I want to take a credit on a supplier invoice, there is no condition under the GST law which says that the place of supply of services should be in Delhi. But what practically is happening is such restriction is imposed by the portal. Portal is disallowing the credit. If a supplier issue me an IGST invoice, I am in Delhi. But if they write place of supply as other territory, I am not able to get the credit. Technical glitch, technical restriction, but not in the law. We hope we get clarity on this, that it is not the portal which will impose a restriction on credit, it is the law. Similarly, blot credit, safari retreat. I think the entire industry is looking forward for the representation which have been made to the policy wing, as well as the matter which is pending before Supreme Court, whether the commercial leasing business, in commercial leasing business, will the developer get the credit, whether the hotels, people maintaining the storage and providing storage facilities, are they eligible to take the credit on the construction? Because in this case, when we compare this situation with a normal situation wherein I'm creating a factory, I'm creating a plant, here the nexus is direct. What Safari Retreat said that you construct and you rent the same property. So there is an immediate nexus on which the GST is paid, hence credit should be allowed. Section 17(5)(c) and D has to be read narrower. So we look forward for certain positive amendments, positive judiciary in this regard, considering the fact that there is a seamless flow of credit. So these were some of the issues which we are facing, and we look forward to get relief in 5th year of GST. Thank you so much. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you so much, Tushar sir. I think you covered all the excitement and interesting points to look after in the 5th year of GST in a very precise time.